Over the last decade, Kenya has moved most of its government services online. All this is part of a digitization push that seeks to do away with having to walk into a state office to say, renew your driver's license or register a marriage. It's all on eCitizen, a portal developed by a Kenyan company in 2014. But increasingly there are questions about data privacy, accountability, and most of all, a 50 shilling convenience fee that one pays for every service that they get on the platform. So let's go inside the tech startup behind eCitizen.
Kenya has been a company that has actually been in the Kenyan tech space for quite a long time now. We did not just come to start with eCitizen. So prior to eCitizen, we were already doing a lot of other jobs as webmasters. In the private sector, we did a couple of systems, small systems that helped clients. We did some ERPs here and there. But then we started actually getting into some government jobs because we were able to get an opportunity at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to revamp their landing pages and their dashboards. And at that particular time, as a young startup, started by young people in our 20s, we were able to get incubation via the IFC, which is part of the World Bank. Basically, these are loans to startups, and we were a young company by young people. So what we did then was we sought their mentorship. They gave us money to develop, to buy licenses, to build systems, and to be able to incubate ourselves into a proper startup. So IFC gave us some money. They paid for the work we did in different cities, mentored us, and allowed us to actually have some sort of corporate governance. When we were with IFC, we then upskilled. We got to a level where we were able to move around with IFC all over the continent of Africa, developing construction permit systems. So our forte was to make systems, and we concentrated so much on construction permit systems for various cities. This is Lesotho. We even did the Nairobi construction permit system. Around that period again, I remember when government of Kenya, under the previous president Uhuru Kenyatta, had wanted the digitization of the national registry. So we had an opportunity to pitch, and we won an opportunity to digitize the national registry for the government of Kenya. So all this is prior to eCitizen being a part of what we do. President Uhuru in 2013 had announced that Kenya was going to embark on a journey for digitization. And this was one of his manifestos when he came into power in 2013. So this was picked up actually by Treasury as a real thing. And there was a time when the Government Digital Payments Department at Treasury were actively shopping around for vendors to be able to deploy digitization for the government of Kenya. And at that particular time, a couple of multinational vendors came, they pitched. And because we had already doubled in some of government work, for instance, the digitization of the national registry, the webmasters popped up at some point. And we were invited to go and also pitch. Fortunately for us, by the time we got there, and when we heard the TORs of what they wanted us to pitch for, we realized that we already had a system that was similar to what they were looking for. It's a system where a user is able to search for a service, apply for the service, pay for the service, download a certificate to show that there's a completion of the whole request. So this is from the user, from the application, all the way to accessing the service, including a payment journey. This is what was needed. So very many vendors were coming to pitch on what they could do or how that journey could have looked like. But it became a short journey for us because we already had a system that could be deployed on short notice. All we needed to do was to tweak it and to make it fall into the specifications that the state wanted at that particular time. That marked now our entry into what we today call eCitizen. For a user to fully experience eCitizen as a product, they need three components from the system. They need the platform. This was built by webmasters. They need a payment gateway, which was built and maintained by PesaFlow. And they need the notifications, the VAS. This is built and maintained by Olive Tree. So the three of them give you a full spec of what eCitizen is. So these are three different companies coming together to create for you the eCitizen experience, and that is the consortium. For the period you've talked about, between 2014 and 2017, we had only been licensed to build and maintain a system, but we did not have a payment gateway that was integrated into the system that we were in control of, so to speak, because this is a critical government system. So we went and settled for a third-party provider. This is Goldrock Capital, and they are the ones who now were able to deploy the pay bill solution. And it's through their payment gateway and payment gateway license that we were able now to actually experience the piloting of eCitizen, because this period was still our piloting phase. So that is where Goldrock comes in, and we, at that particular time, the pay bill that was being run was 206, yes.
And at the time, when you speak about the payments, it's basically what the Kenyans pay for the entire, if it's a DL renewal, that's the entire money. At the time, did you have the additional 50?
Yes, the convenience fee has been there from day one. Because when the pilot ended around January of 2015, December of 2014. So what happened then was, this is the first phase of the pilot, before we go to the second phase of the pilot. The first phase of the pilot ended with the funding that had been given by IFC, part of the World Bank, for us to actually develop the system on behalf of the Kenya government. When this ended, and it had been clear at that particular time that we had not yet piloted all the critical services of government, for it to actually actualize as a proper system, there was now no other model for us to actually be able to pay for the licenses, for the certifications, for the salaries, for the staff, for the electricity, for the internet, for everything that a company requires to run a system. So we wrote to government and requested for budgets, and they said there were no budgets at that particular time. And so we came into an agreement to actually sell the service at that time as software as a service. So when we went the SaaS route, this allowed us to be able to levy a convenience fee with concurrence with the government at that particular time, to be able to now carry the load of this system. Remember, this is not a funded system. This is not a system, to date actually, eCitizen has never been funded by Exchequer. It's never been funded by even 1 shilling of public money. eCitizen has always funded itself from the beginning. This is something that needs to be very clear. It has been a self-funding system. eCitizen is a product that right now is owned by the government of Kenya. But before it was handed over to the government of Kenya, it was a product that was being maintained, serviced, and owned by the entities that created it. Now, how can all these three pay its developers, pay for bandwidth, pay for cybersecurity licenses, pay for the call center without a budget, without anybody procuring them? So the only thing that was logical at that particular point was, since it was software as a service, the user was paying to use the service, and this 50 shillings was being collected to pay the 3 entities. So Olive Tree was making a cut from it, PressaFlow, and what we call webmasters. This money was collected to pay for all the auxiliary services that makes a tech product go to market. We didn't even have enough money to actually do billboards. You've never seen a billboard of eCitizen anywhere. Our money was purely for making sure the systems work, because we knew at that particular time, if the systems work, then the work will speak for itself later. So we did this from 2015, only for 1 year until 2016. So after 2016 is when the government put a stop to it and said that they wanted to be the ones to control the pay bill. So we surrendered the pay bill to government in 2016, and we have never accessed that pay bill to date. So Goldrock was the one collecting the convenience fee on behalf of these entities. Goldrock had been contracted to do a payment gateway for us. If Goldrock had any regulatory issues with the state, that was not on webmasters. That was purely a Goldrock and the regulators' conversation. But look at it this way. For you as a citizen to achieve a service on eCitizen, you will probably use your M-Pesa phone and you will pay for a service. So if a service is worth 1,000 shillings, let's say you're paying for a certificate of good conduct, you will most likely pay 1,070 shillings or 1,080 shillings. This is how that 1,080 shillings is. The 1,000 shillings will be government money for the certificate of good conduct. The 50 shillings would be the convenience money that has been charged as software as a service. This is to run the payment gateway, to make sure that you've gotten notifications on your phone, and to maintain the system. And the 30 shillings is deducted by Safaricom at source. So we and Safaricom are in the same space as the private sector supporters of government. But Safaricom is consuming its 30 shillings at source. The 50 shillings was in the same realm, because we've given you a convenience not to travel far and wide to receive a certificate of good conduct. You can actually apply it from the comfort of your phone, in your home, or in a cyber cafe. So 50 shillings then was being used for that particular purpose. So when the government demanded for the pay bill 206 to leave Goldrock and to go to National Treasury, this is the point where Goldrock decided to sue us, webmasters, because we are the ones who had brought him on board and contracted him to do a payment gateway, and they sued government for withholding their pay bill that they had been running on behalf of government. So that is where the separation between us and Goldrock started. In 2023, the government finally procured eCitizen after we've piloted it for almost a decade. Phase 1 of the pilot ended within 6 months. Phase 2 of the pilot started in 2015 all the way until 2022. Remember, eCitizen is a critical government system. You cannot pilot it for 6 months and say it's working. You have to really go through various elements of the solutions, understand the country, the landscape, the people, and we've built it into what it is today because we've spent so much time, blood and sweat to create the system that it is. So 2023 is when we were done with the pilot and we were now fully ready to be procured into government. So we are serving our first 3-year contract of being procured into the state. So we handed over in 2023 a fully piloted system After showing its success story to the state, and now the state could fully onboard eCitizen as part of its products and gave it a substantial department under the Ministry of Immigration and Citizen Services. Right now, we are doing about 22,000 services, the leading in the globe actually. It's not close to the capacity of what eCitizen is capable of doing right now. And the beautiful thing about this company, it was started by young people, even though we may not be very young now, but the developers today, we keep incubating and bringing in new developers who are young people. These are young Kenyans in their 20s and 30s. The full team size for the entities is almost 500 in our different offices. So we're many. It's a very big number of young developers and different people who are working here. On site, we have about 300. And then off-site, we have about 200 that are deployed to various different ministries and departments. We've grown it from a small product that only started with 10 government services to now 22,000 government services, which we jumped and leaped so high that we've actually defeated the world's greatest digitization countries such as Estonia. And this is a success story that we hope one day can be written for Kenya. We want to fully maximize the digitization space in this country. This country is still largely very manual. Some of the resistance we've received as a tech company that is trying to digitize is the fact that, of course, you render a lot of manual systems redundant. And where there are manual systems, of course, there's a human you've disrupted. And sometimes this fixes corruption and inefficiencies and so on and so forth. We hope that we can actually get this country to do what Estonia has done. Even though we have more services online than Estonia, but they have all the main services online based on the fact that their population is smaller and their government is a bit smaller based on what they have visibility of everything within the country. Our dream is to actually lead in this part of the world, because I can arguably say that in most parts of the Middle East and Africa, part of the world, Kenya is actually steps ahead. We've taken our solutions to some Arab countries like Iraq. We've built for them construction systems straight out from here. So we're already exporting our technology, and it's just that it's sad that sometimes you're not celebrated back home, but the work that these teams here have done is tremendous, and it is exportable globally. They keep increasing based on more use, but the transactions we do in a day, I can just tell you that we're collecting $1 billion shillings a day for the states. We leaped from doing about 100 million a day for the Kenya government. Today we're making 1 billion a day for the Kenya government. It oscillates. The dry months we come down to about 900 million, but yeah, we're within those numbers today. So during the weekends you have lower transactions. Holiday seasons you have lower transactions. The Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are high peak transactions. Towards December holidays, you have a lot of transactions on passport renewals and so on and so forth. So it fluctuates, but we have a constant of how many in a day do we collect for government in terms of revenue, and how many in a year do we can we say that we've transacted? Yes. The convenience fee, the 50 shillings convenience fee, we lost control of it way back in 2016 because government captured it. When we were contracted by the state in 2023, they gave us back the convenience fee through them. So the convenience fee you pay is paid to government. Then we invoice them every month. We have to now go verify all the transactions that have been done. And then this verification sometimes takes 2 months. Then they pay us based on those verifications. So from a tech company perspective, contrary to what people think, we are doing other things, other jobs, to be able to keep up with the monthly demands of the whole operations. Because if we're relying on what government pays us, then we'd already have defaulted in so many ways. I think Parliament has questions to ask the government department that is managing eCitizen. We are just a vendor providing a solution for the state.
And that's now the ICT authority?
No, Ministry of Interior.
Oh, okay.
Even though our contract was signed by 3 entities, the Ministry of Interior are the custodians of eCitizen. The Ministry of ICT are the custodians of the IT certifications that are needed to deploy eCitizen and the policy framework. And the Ministry of Treasury are the custodians of all the monies and all the financial conversations around eCitizen. So we have 3 substantive ministries that manage eCitizen. But the custodian of our contracts is the Ministry of Interior, the Department of Immigration and Citizen Services. That is how it is. Now, the questions the Parliament have are largely towards the government side of this conversation. Because as a vendor, we do our work, we deploy the solutions, we maintain, we manage the systems, we run the systems. What happens then is every end month, we invoice for every transaction that has gone through our payment gateway. So we have to verify that on this month, we had 1 million transactions. So the government side and our side have to sit and verify indeed these transactions were made. So since it's a system, you just pull the data from the system and you can actually verify to the phone number, to the service, to the ID number of the person that procured that service. So it's very foolproof. You'll know this transaction was done. So the government side have very many layers of verification. It's not one individual verified. It has checks and balances. So you can't falsify a transaction that did not exist. So once they have verified everything, is when they process our invoice. There are times we have invoiced, and because of lack of clarity, they will tell us, hold on, we will not pay until we clarify this. And we normally let the government clarify everything they need to clarify, and then they pay us. So that is how it is. So as vendors, we are only entitled to what we were contracted to do. And we are not receiving any money from the exchequer. Our money is paid for as an extra fee for the service that has been paid for. If a service is worth 1,000 shillings, that 1,000 shillings is 100% Kenya government money. That's a taxpayer money. The 50 bob on top is not taxpayer money. This is the money that a user has paid for the convenience to use this platform. Now, government is collecting that as well. So we are invoicing for that money that is not exchequer money. So government is not losing any revenue. They have their 1,000 shillings intact at all times. In fact, we never get full 50 shillings because the ministries involved, each of them deduct something from the 50 bob to also manage the departments and to run the budget for managing the departments that are maintaining eCitizen. So when you onboard a department of government, a ministry, say KWS, what normally happens is the department of eCitizen, the directorate of eCitizen actually, will write to the relevant government entity that, as per the Executive Order number 1 of 2023, you're required to be onboarded as part of the eCitizen ecosystem. So the DG and the PS of Immigration and Citizen Services will write to the DG and the PS of that entity. Once a concurrence has been done, then the Department of eCitizen will then write to us to request to go and quickly onboard that department. We will then send a team to go and do a mapping to understand what needs to be digitized in that ministry. So this includes a lot of research, a lot of data sharing for our team now, our technical team, to understand what exactly is going to be digitized. Once this has been done, workshops are then called for. A workshop at their side and a training session on our side. So what we'll do then is assess if they have a system already that needs to just be plugged in into eCitizen, so that we can, these API calls, or do they need to be designed for and built for independent new systems? So depending on the need, the technology team is going to be deployed as such. So in the case where they already have a system, this is just APIs that are going to talk to each other, then we will send a team. Then this team is going to liaise with the other team. They will understand what their needs are. Then we're going to bring them for a training session on how to now onboard them onto eCitizen, train the staff of that ministry on how to use their own eCitizen dashboard, train them on how they can now access the systems. They will then change these encrypted passwords so that only them can access. So the minute we've handed over, we've onboarded a ministry, let's say KWS, their IT team come and take over that entire eCitizen instance for KWS. We no longer have access to their dashboard. It's only them who can allow us in should they want us in for maintenance. But normally the knowledge transfer that is there is they now manage it. The only thing we do now is to manage the technology that is holding it together. It's the same way you own a Gmail account. No staff member in Google headquarters has access to your Gmail account, but they can maintain the Gmail ecosystem. So that's exactly what we do. We maintain that ecosystem, but it's only them who can access those dashboards and who can see what's going on in those dashboards. This is on the webmaster side. On the PesaFlow side, we can only view the transactions and automate the transactions that are happening within that ministry from an end user, either a citizen or a foreigner, running through the system to achieve the service they've applied for, and make sure that the money journey all the way to treasury is visible. We can't stop, because if the money is through a pay bill, which is being held at treasury, there's no way you can break that journey. But we can ensure that this service went through the payment gateway infrastructure so that by the time treasury is receiving this money, this person has received their service. So we make sure that that whole transaction has actually gone through the right way. When we are billing, we have to go sit down on treasury to prove to them that indeed we facilitated that transaction and you received the money. Ever since when we did the handover, we handed over everything. eCitizen servers sit at government servers at Safaricom. The only other people who have the data are the Ministry of ICT through their redundancy sites in Konza and wherever else. We don't have any access to citizens' data because it's not in our job. It sits in the servers. So what we do is, if we want to plug in to, let's say, a department that needs citizen verification, these are just API calls. It connects to IPRS. IPRS pulls the data, the citizen identity data, We verify through our engines that this citizen exists. This is a real citizen called XYZ. The ID number matches with the name according to government records, and then process that information for him to get a service. But seeing that data in IPRS is not at our level of access because it sits in government. So if I want to verify Musao or I want to verify anyone right now through a system within eCitizen, all I have to do is call up the IPRS system, which is a government system, to be able to get that data. So we have access to call up a data for verification to happen. But I can't view all the customers in government, all the citizens in government. So I can't manipulate what I can't view, what I can't access. That is purely in government. I must say this though, that the system in itself, we take our own measures to ensure that it has robust firewalls. This actually takes up a bigger chunk of our wage bill. We have deployed some of the world's best cybersecurity solutions, and that is why eCitizen is virtually, not impossible, but virtually unhackable. The instances where people have spoken of eCitizen was hacked were servers that do not sit with us being accessed externally. What happened, it was a DDoS attack. A DDoS attack is not like a hack per se. I'll use the simple terms for someone to understand what a DDoS attack is, as used by most hackers. It's like a door. A door can fit one person to walk through. But now imagine you jam 1,000 people to try and go through this door. You'll create a blockage because nobody's going to go through. So what happened is very many bots that had been deployed by people who call themselves hackers, because they couldn't hack it, the most they could do is to disrupt it. So they used very many bots to send requests to the eCitizen gateway, and therefore a Kawaida request was not going through because it is jammed. Now, for you to do that, you have to attack the server that is hosting the system of eCitizen. But that server does not sit with us. It sat with government servers at Safaricom. So we were not the ones who were being attacked. It was the servers, the government servers at Safaricom that was being attacked. Remember, the same servers were hosting KCB, were hosting KPLC. They also went down. But because eCitizen is very critical to members of the public, then of course we became prominent. We do a lot of pen tests. We do a lot of modern ways in which we try and test our vulnerabilities. We have a lot of ethical hackers who we deploy sometimes to try and break in. So every time we see where the loopholes are, we quickly deploy the latest technology. You remember first and foremost how you got into this space. You remember then that there are people who've been waiting for you to fail. You then start thinking maybe it's been designed this way so we can fail. But for very many times we wanted to just be like, you know what, let's just switch off this thing and just move on. But then you realize it's a critical government system to start with. So national security is involved. Even though nobody has given me mandate at that particular time to think patriotically, but by nature I am a patriot. Two, when you think about the real impact stories of eCitizen, the mother out there in the village who is just applying for a birth certificate through the system, no longer having to go queue. Sometimes when we drive and you go see these departments, you see people are able to just access their services. That's the point you realize we've done something big. Even if I don't get paid for this, I'll go down in history that I am a pioneer, that I made Kenya a digital state. Those sentiments is what made us actually be like, you know what, we're gonna pick this thing up. It was never taken care of. So we worked for 7 years for free because we never got paid. what we ended up doing was we now got the contract and we're like, now we have spent 10 years using our own money to sustain a government system that never funded us, that never gave us anything. Now we have 3 years to prove that we can do it. And that is where we're facing a lot of fights. Because we're trying to prove that we can actually do this and get it right. We have gone over and above. We've digitized over 20,000 services. This thing is working. Raising the revenues of KWS from 5 million a weekend to 100 million. Nobody cares to see that. People want to see the negative side of the story. And that's just the nature of our society is. The saddest thing is, I don't want to call it national self-hate, but interests. People are not used to, conditioned to see a homegrown solution working and working well. They expect it to fail. They've seen entities like Taskies fail. They've seen most entities fail, however successful they were. And so it's sort of like the thing that people sometimes expect to see it fail. Sometimes we say, at least give us a chance to fail. We've not even been given the chance to fail because we're not working on our optimum. We are firefighting and troubleshooting. You wake up in the morning, you find yourself in the press. You wake up in the morning, you find yourself in parliament. And you're like, the only crime we've committed is to get it right and to get it right. I think it's because we have a team of young men who've lost everything to make this thing work. So nobody's about to give up. We are like, you know what, we will, if it's going to benefit others in the generations to come, at least let's say we tried. We dared and we tried. So that's where sometimes we get the energy to push on. I think there are clauses on how we can terminate our contract with the state, but largely, if you just terminate it before the term is over, that's a breach. It constitutes, it's going to be expensive for governments. Number two, based on the fact that we are the ones who piloted this thing for 10 years, understood every nook and cranny. Our systems have been we built systems specific, like we have an engine called Automate, which we built specifically for automation of government services. There's none close to it around. The new vendor will have to procure that from us or take time to build another one. So I know there will be a disruption for almost a year before the next person gets it right. There will be a very big disruption. And it can cost the government a lot of money. So in as much as we've handed over eCitizen to government, it's theirs now. They can hire anyone in the world to maintain it. But what I know from where I sit is it will take so much of their resources to train a new engine to start doing what we've been doing. And in the face of austerity and trying to save costs, it would not make any sense. It would not make any sense. To replace, you can replace in a minute. But the expense it would take to rebuild the engines that are helping us to support and maintain the eCitizen infrastructure. And also just retrain all the new staff. Because these staff are on contract with us, they're not in contract with the state or with any other vendor. We've deployed staff to every government department to assist at the surface level for eCitizen, right? So for them to start training all this new staff, for them to understand the landscape as we have done, to build the system, we've built systems that are helping us at immigration. We tailor-make systems to help us in different various government departments. So how I see someone else coming to, it's possible. But for what reason now? Yet we are the ones who originated the idea. We're the ones who founded the idea. We're the ones who brought the idea into the fore. We're the ones who handed it over to the state. So for what reason now? What is not being done right by our teams? What breaches have we made? We don't even access our own money. We don't even access the pay bill from 2016. So it would really take a very evil person to penalize a company that has done nothing but support the state even at their own cost. We largely deal with GovTech. Government technology solutions is actually our forte. So we have very many other nations that have come to us to say that we would like you to help us with various solutions, from border management control, from tax systems. We've even broken down what we have in Kenya. For instance, Kenya eCitizen has everything. So in some countries, we're deploying maybe business registration services only as a thing. In some countries, we're just deploying maybe health systems as a thing. There are many. We're in Sierra Leone. We're mostly in Africa. We're in Namibia, Sierra Leone. We're right now in Zambia, about to close deals. We're in South Sudan here. We're about to get into Burundi. Yeah, so we're in about 11 countries. So we're every day we're just trying to make sure that we can sell the GovTech solutions globally. So some of these countries, their laws allow you to only work there if you have set up locally there. So we work with partner vendors there who we provide the solutions together. Then we make everything else we do from Nairobi. Oh, we love it. Initially, from a tech perspective, people were a bit apprehensive. But then you dive into AI, you realize, yes, they've made our work so much faster, not easier, faster. Because now you write some certain code using some prompts. Then now you just tweak it to customize it to what we need and make sure that it just aligns with all the policies. And AI right now is embraced well because it's helping us. Even we're enhancing the call centers. We're making sure that the engines are going to be more responsive and faster and customizable. So for us, it's made our work lighter as long as we focus on learning it. And we've gone into the deep end of AI to make sure that we actually give the perfect solutions. We're creating different chatbots for different needs because the chatbot that is going to be dealing with immigration is not the same that will be dealing with births. So we're customizing the various chatbots that are going to be aligned into eCitizen. The digital landscape in Kenya has not yet been achieved. I think we've scratched the surface of about 27% full. So we still have another 73% that we can fully maximize and digitize. We've not yet even gone into the county governments and helped them and done revenue mapping in all these places. A lot of processes are still very manual. CDF offices are still very manual. These are places where an MP and his little board decide this could be automated processes because this is exchequer money that are going to these places. It should be easy for a ward member or a constituency member to do a tracking of how money has come down to the ground, spent, apply for bursaries, do what. All these things have not yet been explored, and the eCitizen engines can actually explore all these things far and wide. Yeah. So there's so much more that we haven't even touched on.